there was a gentleman that was very big in the taxi business. He's late now. He had a game farm in north of Pretoria. Talk about taxi bosses, talk about business people, very prominent one. Talk about politicians, very prominent one. Will all make a turn in that place. I had conducted a peace talk in KZN on the taxes. He came there. I think he did not appreciate what I said in that meeting. When he left, I heard this thing from people that are close to him. One of them is this Sergeant Nkosi, because he grew up with him there. He was his father. Where this man says, I want Mkhwanazi to come to the farm. If you can't bring Mkhwanazi to the farm, that means you don't have control over Mkhwanazi. Because he believed that if you come to the farm, it's a sign of respect to him. So everyone, that means they walk into that farm or drive into that farm, they are subjecting themselves to his authority. So this person was that powerful, that man. So many people are associated with him. That's why I'm saying there was that parallel kind of managing the country that was run in a farm. And there are many people of his, some of them brought us here today that were attending this gathering. So that's why I'm saying the majority of the politicians know him very well. And so he goes, he passes on, other people want to take over from him. So that's why we had to stop. General Sibiya says at one stage, communicating to Matlala, that I don't have anyone else to look after me except you, Matlala. Mswati is gone. So when you have a general saying that, he's handing himself over to Ken Matlala by that communication. It's a worry. It tells you that we were almost having a problem. But it's something that was there for many years.
But what we do see is that in parallel with this process, Mr. Msibi, Mr. Motsumi, and Mr. Molefe are exploring other options. And that story starts on page 196.
Before we get to the news story, what are we to make of Sergeant Nkosi signing documents on behalf of SAPS and purporting to represent SAPS in future agreements with either it's an international organization or international suppliers? What inference are we to draw?
Well, I think the inference is that that's an out-and-out fraud, but it's a fraud to which everyone involved in that project is party. When everyone involved in that project with knowledge of Sergeant Nkosi's letter was also involved. But the only people that we can identify in that regard are Mr. Msibi, who's no longer alive, and Shane or Sean. We don't know who else was aware of this. We don't even know whether the Czech company were aware of who they were dealing with.
Because my concern, we're talking about a grabber here. We don't know what else. I mean, you can see one conduct where he's signing and putting a stamp and force number to allow an international organization to come and make a demonstration to private individuals in South Africa. What if it was weapons and other things that are not authorized by SAPS?
We don't know, but it is a very legitimate question, Commissioner. I mean, we did see the exchanges with the man whom he saved as Deputy President Didi Mabuza, who Mr. Mashile, I think, who seemed to have been suggesting an arms deal. We don't know where it ended.
And what does it say about the use of stamps at SAPS? I mean, if any captain or constable can just
But I think every captain must have a stamp, just because they have to use the stamp in their official duties. So, for instance, you go into your local police station to get an oath commissioned, the captain uses his stamp to commission your oath. it's how the stamp is used. And of course, a South African looking at that document would think, no, this doesn't on its face come with, this on its face doesn't confer the authority of the SAPS to deal with a grabber. But someone in the Czech Republic wouldn't have the faintest idea whether this was, how South Africans issue authority at the highest levels of SAPS or not. So the risk is particularly heightened in relation to transactions with foreign countries or with foreign entities.
Thank you.
Mr. Chaskalson, this conduct by Sergeant Nkosi that you're discussing with Commissioner Khumalo, specifically the letter and the stamping on the face of it, is obviously prosecutable. That's why you refer to it as fraudulent conduct. Have we had the opportunity to investigate or find out who is this Sean Jacobs that he's speaking to? Because if it's a South African national, then they sit in exactly the same position as Sergeant Nkosi, criminal offense. And have we had the opportunity to investigate that?
We haven't yet traced Sean Jacobs. I must confess, we haven't made a huge effort to trace Sean or Shane Jacobs. We don't have, there are no obvious details relating to him other than the cell phone number, and that doesn't automatically lead to someone who on his or her face is Sean Jacobs or Shane Jacobs.
Sergeant Nkosi would have to say who is Sean Jacobs. Thank you.
And our investigators could also look into it.
I'm not sure they will thank me for that. They have quite a lot on their plates at the moment, but we will look further. The parallel process I was describing starts at page 196, or our evidence of it starts at page 196. And there we see, on the 15th of May, Mr. Motsumi WhatsApps to Mr. Msibi 3 documents. The first 2 are photographs of his, their 2 passports. And the third is an itinerary. And the itinerary is at page 206. It's an itinerary for both Mr. Motsumi and Mr. Msibi. And it reflects a strange set of, or it reflects a broken set of connections. There's going to be a flight from Johannesburg to Frankfurt, and then a connecting flight almost immediately from Frankfurt to Paris. That will take Mr. Msibi and Mr. Motsumi to arrive in Paris on the 16th of May at 8:20 in the morning. The next flight is not from Paris, it's from Hamburg in Germany, and that's 2 days later, on the 18th of May. And that is a flight from Hamburg to Zurich, and then as a connection to get back to Johannesburg from Zurich. So one imagines that Mr. Motsumi and Mr. Msibi were going to make their own way, or would make their way from Paris to Hamburg, which is relatively close, either by train or by plane, at some stage between 16 and 18 May. If we go back to the 16th of May, we see that's the day after the itinerary came. Mr. Msibi sends to Mr. Motsumi a company profile for a company which is actually a closed corporation called Themi Style CC. And the Windeed page for Themi Style is at page 347. And we see from 347 that the only director of Themi Style is Mr. Msibi himself. And according to the history of the reflected on the Windeed search, there's never been any other, sorry, it's a CC, the only member. He has always been a member, and then after the conversion into PTY Limited, the sole director. So he was the sole member, then the sole director. If we go back to the profile of Themi Style, we see that at page 208. And that profile first reflects that the directors of Themi Style are both Mr. Msibi and Mr. Molefe, not Mr. Motsumi, but Mr. Molefe. That doesn't appear to be correct, at least not in terms of the CRPC records. CRPC records just reflect Mr. Msibi, but Mr. Molefe's appearance on this document is significant in its own right. Then it says the company vision to be the #1 trusted intelligence security services provider in Southern Africa and beyond. Its mission, over the page, to provide security services through protecting clients' valuable assets through preventative protection services, private detectives and investigators, consulting, technical surveillance, digital polygraph, and covert operations. There are certain core values set out, including integrity and professionalism. And then the background. Themi Style is a security consultant company whose primary objective is to offer technical support, advice, training, report compilation, and procurement of needed security systems. We ensure that state-owned assets are up to date with the latest security systems, tools, trends, and technology. We further identify and eradicate potential security threats and act as an agent who shall be capable of negotiating and entering into agreements on behalf of companies. Over the page, there are certain services that Themi Style advertises: improved security management, improved risk management, provide secure security systems, provide cross-border security detail, specialist security training, improve on reported security test results, analyze security systems and measures, improve design, implement and monitor all security protocols, policies, and procedures. So Themi Style is presenting itself as a state-of-the-art high-tech security company with surveillance capacity, and as a company that provides services to the state. We ensure that state-owned assets are up to date with the latest security systems, tools, trends, and technology. If we go back to page 197, we see that together with the company profile, Mr. Msibi forwards to Mr. Motsumi an email, and that email is at page 211. sorry, it's the first chat at the top, page 197, where the email's forwarded. But the email itself appears at 211. And the email is an email that is on an email whose default is German, because it says at the top in German at 15 May 2023 at 2020, Nokutulas Ngumalo wrote, but it's in German, not English. And Ms. Ngumalo says, "Dear Stefan, please find attached registration documents," and you'll see at the bottom of the email is a CRPC form for Themi Style, confirming Mr. Msibi as the director of the company. Mr. Motsumi is a trusted partner in the business, and bear in mind that this is with a view to the itinerary that we've just seen that has a stop in Hamburg in Germany, and which involves Mr. Msibi and Mr. Motsumi. Please be assured that they both have the capacity and mandate to conduct business on behalf of the company, so Mr. Motsumi too can represent Themi Style. They shall present the letter of appointment and service level agreement from state. So they are purporting to have a service level agreement from a state. Confidentiality protocol as stated below is noted and shall be strictly adhered to. Now, again, we have a situation where a European dealer, and we will look at what we suspect was being sold here. But a dealer in high-tech security surveillance equipment and the like is being told that Mr. Msibi and somebody else represent a state. There is then on the 16th of May a series of itineraries, additional itineraries and changes, none of which are of consequence for us. But the next step, and bear in mind this is 16 May where the 16 May, the original itinerary related to a trip from 16th to 18th May. If we then go to page 185, we're now dealing with the chats between Mr. Molefe, not Mr. Motsumi, but Mr. Molefe and Mr. Msibi. And at page 185, we see that on the 4th of June, Mr. Molefe, in other words, that's about just over 2 weeks after the proposed return from Zurich, from Europe, Hamburg via Zurich. Mr. Molefe forwards to Mr. Msibi in chat number 5 a quotation. And that quotation we see at page 193. And the quotation has a number. Themi Style are identified as the agent of whomever is providing the quotation. We don't see the letterhead, so we don't know what the company is, whose quotation it is. The date of the quotation is 23rd May. So that would have been 4 days after Mr. Msibi and Mr. Motsumi returned from Europe. And what the quotation is for, item 1, active monitoring system including laptop software and one multi-RAT BTS. That's multi-radio access technology-based technology system. That is a grabber. Item 1 is a grabber. The unit per the price per unit for the grabber is 780,000 euros, which at the time would have been, gosh, I haven't done the equation, but it would have been somewhere between 15 and 18 million rands, I would imagine. Optional, 2 multi-rat BTSs. So you could have an additional extra set of grabbers which would come at 150,000 per unit. And you could also get a tactical DDS jammer. And a DDS stands for direct digital synthesis, and what a DDS jammer is digital technology that can essentially block out other, can be trained on particular frequencies very quickly and can block out other people's mobile communications. So you can shut off everybody else's mobile access with a jammer. That quotation is issued by Femistyle, a company in which Mr. Motsumi, Mr. Molefe, and Mr. Msibi have a central role in, and it comes 5 days after 4 days after the return from Europe of Mr. Msibi and Mr. Motsumi. And we don't see what becomes of this quotation, whether it ever gets taken up by anyone. We don't know to whom it was addressed either. We do know that it was exchanged between Mr. Molefe and Mr. Msibi. But if we can just step back and take stock at what we're looking at here, because it is quite alarming. Mr. Msibi, Mr. Motsumi, Mr. Molefe, and possibly Sergeant Nkosi are involved. Well, Sergeant Nkosi is certainly involved with Mr. Msibi in one project. Mr. Msibi, Mr. Motsumi, and Mr. Molefe are involved in another. The extent to which Mr. Motsumi and Mr. Molefe were involved in the first project is not clear. Anyway, they're involved in a commercial project. The commercial project involves the selling of high-tech surveillance, digital surveillance systems and jamming technology. The 3 people we're talking about have received some coverage in this commission. Mr. Msibi has been described by General Kumalo, who's the head of crime intelligence, as the then leader of the Big Five organized crime cartel. Mr. Molefe is currently on trial for murder in a matter involving firearms that can be linked to more than 30 other murder scenes in Gauteng in the last 5 years. Mr. Motsumi is someone whose name General Sonona, when he was still head of the Hawks, was too scared to mention. These 3 men are dealing with foreign companies to get access to grabber technology, purporting to represent a state. And then, at least in the case of Mr. Msibi, they seem to be looking to sell that technology to the Eswatini government. In that first episode, the first case that we saw. Whether or they didn't manage, it seems, in that case, to sell to the Eswatini government, they may well have managed in this case, we just don't know. But whether or not they are managing to sell the technology to a foreign state, they presumably can also have access to it for their own purposes. They are able to deal with the providers of this technology. They are being invited to sign contracts with the providers of this technology, in the case of Infosys, on the basis that they represent the South African state. This is a worrying state of affairs, a very worrying state of affairs. This is the sort of technology that should only go into the hands of intelligence agencies who are then constrained to use it under fairly strict legislative controls. But what we have here is private parties passing themselves off as representatives of states and trading in this, or trying to trade in this technology.
Mr. Chaskalson, that brings me to the question that I was going to ask. And I know that the presentation of this evidence today has been sprung on you. The question I meant to ask is, have we gone so far as to establish whether private entities and individuals can lawfully be in possession under South African law of a gemma and a grabber? Have we gone that far?
A jammer I can't speak to. A grabber I can say with some confidence is not something that any private entity ought lawfully to be entitled to use, because digital surveillance, interception of communications, which is what a grabber is for, is something regulated by statute, which requires judicial warrant. And judicial warrants are not given to private parties to intercept communications.
Are we able to get that on affidavit from a witness who's part of the government or intelligence agencies?
I will look into it, and we will, one way or another, we will establish this point. It may be a simple issue of law having regard to the interception. I think it's called the Interception of Communications Act. But
I'm concerned about the types, because it may be that some are regulated and therefore members of the public are not or should not be able to access them. But some devices may be allowed for use by private entities, mobile companies, and other people. So if we can just get that clarity from somebody who has knowledge of these kinds of things, to avoid having to burden you with the answers.
No, we will certainly get an expert in the field to explain this all to us.
We don't want to force you to do research and give us answers. If an expert is able to provide us with an affidavit, then I think that should suffice.
We will ensure that it's done. That takes us to the end of this grabber episode. The next.
Before you go to the next, I know you're not a witness, and you're not, and you're not an expert in this. Just I'm trying to wrap my head around a gemma as against a grabber. I think I've understood what how a grabber would work. A gemma would do what? Would at least
block communications.
For criminal activity.
Well, I mean, at a very low level, a jammer stops your remote control on your car from locking your car when you get out the car. So a lot of small-time criminals have access to jammers which are used, and I'm sure some of us have had that experience. You get out your car, you think you've locked it, you haven't locked it because the signal's been jammed and someone steals something from your car while you've gone into the shop. At a much more grand scale, what a jammer can do is block communications, can stop people communicating on their cell phones. It essentially can block communication that depends on operating at particular frequencies.
It could block law enforcement from listening in.
Certainly on, yeah.
Thank you.